Follow the moon. A father's final words in the 2026 ice storm tragedy, Newton Falls, NY. January 18, 2026. The Adirondack winter is unforgiving. Locals know this. They prepare for it, stocking pantries with canned goods, filling bathtubs with water, stacking firewood by the door. When meteorologists warned of Winter Storm Fern in 2026, residents across New York's North Country did what they always do. They hunkered down. But preparation, no matter how meticulous, cannot account for every variable. Nature has blind spots. Life has tragedies that no amount of foresight can prevent. On the evening of January 18, 2026, Bryan P. LaPlante, a 33-year-old father, outdoorsman, and lifelong resident of Newton Falls, would prove this in the most devastating way possible. Officially, the National Weather Service does not name winter storms, as NOAA does not use an official winter storm naming system. Winter Storm Fern is a media name used by the Weather Channel and widely adopted in news coverage, but it is not an official NWS designation. The storm everyone saw coming. The warnings had been broadcast for days. Winter Storm Fern was barreling toward the northeast, promising ice accumulation, sub-zero temperatures, and dangerous travel conditions. Grocery stores in Star Lake, Tupper Lake, and Governor were stripped bare. Shelves that once held bread, milk, and batteries stood empty. Generators hummed to life in garages. Snowplows idled, waiting for the first flakes. Bryan LaPlante had seen storms like this before. A 2010 graduate of Clifton Fine Central School, he'd spent his entire life in the North Country, hunting in the fall, fishing through the ice in winter, riding ATVs through muddy spring trails. He worked as a cook at the Cranberry Lake Biological Station, a job that connected him to the wilderness he loved. Friends and coworkers described him as polite, kind, and dependable, the kind of man who would swap shifts or offer a ride without being asked. He knew how to read the land. He knew the risks. He was experienced. But ice is deceptive. It does not announce its weaknesses. It does not warn you when it's ready to break. The accident. That Saturday evening, Bryan, his 6-year-old son, and family friend Michael Booth, 48, set out on a snowmobile across Chumont Pond. The ice had seemed solid. Temperatures had been below freezing for weeks. The storm was coming, but it hadn't arrived yet. Then, without warning, the ice gave way. All three, Bryan, his son, and Michael, plunged into the black, freezing water. The cold is immediate, disorienting, deadly. In water, this frigid, the body begins to shut down within minutes. Muscles seize, breath becomes impossible. Hypothermia sets in fast. But Bryan LaPlante was a father first. Somehow, in those chaotic, freezing moments, he managed to lift his 6-year-old son out of the water and push him back onto the ice. The boy was safe for now. But Bryan and Michael were still submerged, the water pulling at their limbs, the cold crushing their chests. Bryan gave his son an instruction. 3 words that would save the boy's life. Follow the moon, the 2-mile walk. The 6-year-old boy stood on the ice, alone. His father was gone. The water had swallowed him. The darkness pressed in from all sides. But the moon was there, pale, steady, hanging low over the frozen landscape. The boy followed it. He walked nearly 2 miles through the Adirondack winter night. Temperatures hovered around 0. The wind cut through his wet clothes. Ice clung to his skin. But he kept moving, his small boots crunching through the snow, his eyes fixed on the moon. When he reached his grandmother's house, he pounded on the door. "Call 911, he said. The boy was treated for hypothermia. He survived. The father's final search. Bryan's father, Patrick LaPlante, 51, went looking for the group when they didn't return home. He drove out to Chumont Pond, scanning the darkness, calling their names. Then he saw him, Bryan still in the water. Patrick crawled out onto the ice, reaching for his son. The ice cracked beneath him. He fell through. For a moment, Patrick was in the same freezing water that had taken Bryan and Michael. But unlike them, he managed to pull himself out. He searched for Bryan in the darkness, but the water had taken him. Patrick returned home, soaked and shivering. When he arrived, he found his 6-year-old grandson already there, safe. Both were treated for hypothermia. Both survived. The recovery. Emergency responders arrived at Chaumont Pond hours later. They pulled Bryan LaPlante and Michael Booth from the water. CPR was performed en route to Gouverneur Hospital. Both men were pronounced dead. The blind spots. The winter ice storm of 2026 was not a surprise. Everyone prepared, but preparation cannot account for thin ice beneath fresh snow. It cannot predict the exact moment a snowmobile will cross a weak spot. It cannot measure a father's willingness to sacrifice himself for his son. We've heard life can change on a dime, and that is so true. Life can cuddle you, smother you, and cheat you out of those you love. There is no escaping it. And then it continues on. The train wheels always turn over, whether your heart is broken or not. Bryan was experienced, cautious, capable, but nature is indifferent. Ice does not care about preparation. Water does not care about love. And yet, in his final moments, fallible, human, driven by instinct and emotion, Bryan ensured his son would survive. He lifted him out of the water. He told him to follow the moon. He gave him a path home. A legacy remembered. Bryan LaPlante is survived by his 3 children, Brianne, Addison, and Rika, and his parents, Patrick and Michelle LaPlante. He was a lifelong resident of Newton Falls, a skilled outdoorsman, a dedicated father, and a beloved member of his community. His co-workers at the Cranberry Lake Biological Station remember him as someone who always showed up. His friends remember his love of hunting, fishing, woodworking, and knife-making. Always helped out, always offered a ride. His family remembers the father who spent his final moments ensuring his son would live. Parents who stand for their kids, stand beside them, and will do everything to prevent any harm from coming to them, are worthy of the title and the job. Parents like this deserve honor and appreciation, to be remembered in the hearts of many. That is heroism and love in one body, the embodiment of love and heroism. Treasuring those we bring into this world. The boy followed the moon. He made it home. He called 911 because his father told him to. And in the end, that is what heroism looks like. Not the absence of fear, not the avoidance of tragedy, but the willingness to act in the face of both, to ensure that someone else survives, even when you cannot. Bryan LaPlante. January 18, 2026. Follow the moon.